At the campsite, Adrian's white moonlight, Caleb draped his coat over her legs, concerned. It's that time of the month, don't catch a cold. Instantly, all eyes around turned to Adrian, including Evelyn's. Adrian nodded. So sweet. I'm shipping it. Why don't you two announce it publicly right here? Adrian took the high-speed train to where Evelyn was on a business trip to celebrate her birthday. Leaning against the window, Adrian saw a pale and thin face, showing no signs of excitement or joy. Actually, they'd been in a Cold War for a month. During the May Day holiday, Evelyn went trekking in Nepal with Caleb. Adrian was furious, and Evelyn was also impatient. I asked you. You were the one who didn't want to go, and it's with other travelers, not just the two of us. It wasn't until yesterday that Adrian took the initiative to message her, asking what she wanted for a birthday gift. It's always been like this between them. Arguments, conflicts. It's always Adrian who breaks the silence first, who gives in first. It seems that if Adrian doesn't make the effort, they will truly fall apart. Adrian uses his flesh and blood to love her, forging her heartlessness and lightness. She only needs to stand there, be herself, and can easily ignite Adrian and then shatter him. Adrian is truly humble to the dust. Over the years, Adrian has grown accustomed to it. She replied to Adrian instantly, wanting to see him. If it were the past, just a replying so quickly would be enough to lift Adrian's spirits for the whole day. After all, she usually replies to Adrian's messages very slowly. She can shower all night, eat all day, and be sleepy by in the evening. But this time she replied instantly, as if she had been staring at her phone waiting for Adrian. But Adrian didn't feel any joy, more of a numb indifference. After getting off the high-speed train, Adrian took a taxi to her hotel. That night, she opened her laptop, saying, "We should watch a movie that Adrian recommended before." Minutes into the movie, her phone rang. The vibrating screen clearly lit up with Caleb. She didn't hide it at all, openly answering the call in front of Adrian. Adrian pressed pause, waiting for her. Half an hour, then another half an hour. Adrian glanced at the time in the bottom right corner of the laptop. She was still on the phone, her expression relaxed, showing no intention of stopping. Adrian pressed play again. Adrian had actually already seen this movie once. The fluorescent light from the laptop screen reflected on Adrian's face. Adrian took 3 days off, rode the high-speed train for 4 hours, traveling all day just to accompany her to watch a movie Adrian had already seen. But at the stroke of midnight on her birthday, she talked on the phone with Caleb for an hour, completely ignoring Adrian. At this moment, Adrian's heart was as calm as a deep, still sea. No resentment, no anger, no sadness, no impatience, just calm. There was even a trace of, "I knew it all along. I expected it" smugness. How? What's so surprising? Caleb, this name that has been grating on Adrian's nerves for a long time. He has always been more important than Adrian. Adrian has known this for a long time. The strange thing is, Adrian doesn't seem to care anymore. Halfway through the movie, she sat back down beside Adrian. "Adrian, what happened in the beginning?" They were just at a tense and exciting scene, and Adrian was absorbed in the movie, not really in the mood to deal with her. Adrian just casually answered, "Yeah." After a while, she said again, "Were you even listening to me? What on earth is Evelyn trying to do? Will she let Adrian watch the movie or not? It's really annoying." Adrian interrupted her. "Watch it properly." The credits scrolled up on the screen, the movie ended, and Adrian stretched and got up to wash up. When Adrian finished wiping his face with a towel, Evelyn was still sitting there motionless. Adrian knew that she was angry, but Adrian also knew that she probably wasn't that angry. Putting on this act was just to force Adrian to coax her. If it were the past, Adrian would have suppressed his own unhappiness, carefully observing her expression, gently coaxing her. "Baby, it's my fault. Baby, look at me." She would then condescend to glance at Adrian, asking, "Do you know what you did wrong?" Adrian has always been very afraid of her gaze, especially when Adrian is emotionally distraught. They've argued many times because of Caleb. At first, she would argue, saying that they were nothing, just friends, like brothers, every time. Later on, she would just stop talking, quietly watching Adrian. That gaze was clear and condescending, like fragments after firecrackers explode, jumping in the air and hitting Adrian's face, slapping his cheeks, making Adrian both hysterical and ashamed. Adrian was the one who was pathetic, Adrian was the clown. Adrian doesn't even dare to recall what Adrian looked like in those moments. Adrian is afraid his self-esteem would collapse. Adrian looks down on himself. No wonder she's become annoyed. Now, as she wishes, Adrian is an emotionally stable boyfriend, so stable that Adrian can't be bothered to coax her. Adrian hung up the towel, changed into his pajamas, and nodded to her. I'm going to sleep first. Caleb transferred to our company, and there are some work matters Adrian is handing over to him. For the first time ever, she actually took the initiative to explain. Adrian knows. Adrian heard. Adrian interrupted her calmly. You were talking about work? Adrian understands. She glanced at Adrian and pursed her lips. Today is my birthday, Adrian. Adrian smiled at her. Oh right, happy birthday. The cake hasn't been eaten yet. Adrian paused. It's too late. Let's do it tomorrow. Adrian turned off the bedside lamp, pulled up the quilt, and lay down comfortably. Adrian had barely turned over when Adrian heard a bang, a loud door slam. It was her birthday. She took the initiative to explain, but Adrian didn't wait for her, didn't watch a movie, didn't coax her, didn't eat cake with her. She was really angry. The next day, Adrian woke up, and unsurprisingly, she was gone. Adrian checked his phone, and there were no messages from her. Adrian knew a new round of Cold War had begun. In the past, Adrian was always tormented during this kind of abrupt silence. Adrian would hold on until eventually Adrian would break down late at night, sending her frantic messages, apologizing, begging for reconciliation. But today, Adrian actually felt a sense of relief, like a burden had been lifted. Adrian no longer painstakingly scrutinized himself, reflecting on what Adrian had done wrong, how Adrian should apologize to her. Adrian lazed in bed, casually browsing his phone for a while. When Adrian got up, Adrian didn't even use hair wax. Adrian was no longer trying to cater to her preferences, putting himself into a suit to seem mature and composed. Instead, Adrian changed into a loose, comfortable hoodie, ready to go out for a walk. If it had been before, Adrian would still have hesitated. Whenever Adrian came to a new city, Adrian always thought of waiting for her to have time to go to the popular spots together. Now though, Adrian felt like taking a walk alone wouldn't be bad. As Adrian wandered, Adrian turned into what looked like a brand new internet cafe and logged into the honor game. A dazzling return gift pack popped up on the screen. Actually, Adrian was pretty good at gaming. Adrian had even done some coaching during college and had been called a pro. But Evelyn didn't like Adrian gaming, saying Adrian was immature. After graduation, Adrian rarely played. After claiming the gift pack, Adrian saw his friend's ID on the game's recommended list. Back then, he'd always asked Adrian to carry him, calling Adrian his master. Now he was a top live streaming star in the honor game. Adrian was filled with envy. He had steadily gone from a newbie to building his own world in his field. Evelyn had also changed jobs twice, getting promoted and a raise. Her salary was already twice Adrian's. And Adrian? These past few years after graduation, wherever Evelyn went, Adrian followed, taking it easy, stagnating in the same place. Now even Adrian thought Adrian was being too much of a doormat. Evelyn she used to be Adrian's life goal, the star Adrian revolved around, his forever first choice. Adrian was stubbornly convinced that she was the one, so as long as she had better opportunities, Adrian was willing to follow her to one unfamiliar city after another without hesitation. Adrian wanted to marry her. Adrian had even imagined more than once that someday they'd have a bright and clean home their home. Adrian's name is Adrian. Hers is Evelyn, and their child could be called Eva. But year after year, whenever Adrian mentioned marriage, she would always evade the topic. Looking back now, these years, Adrian really has been a complete failure. Their relationship is teetering on the brink. Adrian has poured out so much unilaterally, only to get more in indifference and taken for grantedness in return. And career-wise, Adrian is just stagnant, unable to find any direction. I can go on like this. Adrian mustered his courage and clicked Start Live Streaming, filling in his profile information. Congratulations, you've become an honor game streamer. That day, Adrian started his first live gaming stream. There were less than people in his room, but Adrian was very relaxed and happy, gradually getting his touch back. It felt great. Adrian didn't really care that she hadn't sent Adrian a message or returned to the hotel all day. That night, Adrian was adjusting his phone stand, ready to start streaming. Suddenly, a message popped up from the Share Happiness, Run from Trouble group that never had anyone talking. Evelyn posted a picture. It was a cake with heart-shaped candles. Evelyn, it's been a while since it's been this lively. Caleb, you had too much to drink tonight. Be careful on the road. The two messages appeared almost at the same time. Adrian understood. Evelyn had sent this for Adrian to see. She wanted to provoke Adrian. Adrian always minded her contact with Caleb, even more so on her birthday. Was she still expecting Adrian to call her, one call after another, accusing her emotionally? Or would Adrian impulsively rush to the scene, ignoring all pride, and pull her away publicly? How could that be possible? Adrian set the group chat to Do Not Disturb and smiled at the camera. Welcome everyone to my live stream. On the last day of his vacation, Adrian was packing his luggage when Adrian received a call from Evelyn. What time is your train? I'll take you. Her tone was normal, as if they'd never had a confrontation. No need. Adrian will go himself. Adrian subconsciously refused. What time? She insisted. Adrian is already at the station. Adrian lied, feeling a bit awkward, but Adrian knew that saying this would definitely stop her from coming. She hated trouble the most. When they had just started dating, Adrian jokingly said, "Could you also see Adrian off at the train station or pick Adrian up once?" She laughed at Adrian, saying how a grown man could be so sentimental. She never picked Adrian up or dropped Adrian off. But a year ago, when Caleb returned to the country, she went to pick him up at the airport. Adrian was also very angry at the time and used her own words to confront her. Didn't you say that going back and forth to the airport to pick someone up is a waste of time and very foolish? She just gave Adrian a cold glance. Don't be jealous. Adrian will pick you up in the future too. Is that okay? In an instant, her words were like knives, piercing Adrian, and Adrian's pride was ripped open, left to rot in the wilderness. After that, Adrian never mentioned being picked up or dropped off again. Right now, Adrian never would have imagined that she would say, "Then wait for me." Adrian is going to the station now. Adrian looked at his phone, almost unable to believe it was her who said that. Evelyn valued efficiency. In her eyes, spending several times the time to rush to the station to see someone for a few minutes would be meaningless. After a long pause, Adrian replied, "Okay." Adrian rushed, managed to arrive at the station before Evelyn, but she wasn't alone. Beside her was a tall man wearing gold-rimmed glasses, elegant and refined. Caleb. Evelyn couldn't get a taxi for a while, so Caleb gave her a ride. Caleb nodded at Adrian. Wanting. If it were in the past, Adrian would have been secretly angry just by the way he called her that. Moreover, he and Evelyn stood shoulder to shoulder like a perfect couple, making Adrian seem redundant. In the past, even if Adrian didn't show it on his face, Adrian would be very concerned in his heart, feeling challenged. Adrian would have been unable to resist arguing with him. But at this moment, there were no ripples in Adrian's heart. It's just a name. It's just for being called. It doesn't matter what it is. Dropping someone off at the station was indeed commonplace. Adrian greeted him calmly. Okay, thanks for your trouble. Evelyn stared at Adrian silently, took a step closer to Adrian. Adrian then noticed that she was wearing a very thin new necklace around her neck, sparkling with tiny diamonds. So that's what's going on. Waiting for me here, Adrian? Have a safe trip. Sure enough, she spoke as if she had just noticed Adrian's gaze and smiled. The necklace isn't bad, right? Caleb gave it to me. Caleb also smiled. It's good you like it. Then his tone changed. It's a pity that Caleb bought it in a rush. It was a temporary thing. Caleb is afraid it can't compare to the gift Adrian prepared. But Caleb still doesn't know what gift Adrian prepared for Evelyn. Evelyn was also staring at Adrian intently. Actually, Adrian had also given her a necklace before. Adrian saved up 2 months' worth of salary and chose one from a brand that claimed a man can only gift one necklace in his life. She never wore it, and later even listed it on Shinyu, saying that it would be better to just transfer the money. Adrian never chose any gifts after that. Didn't get one. Adrian nodded at them. Excuse me, it's time. Adrian needs to go through security. You guys carry on. Adrian has to leave you now. On the high-speed train, Adrian put on his headphones. Unlike the confused and empty state of mind Adrian had when he came, Adrian was full of drive. Adrian had downloaded videos from Livestream Academy beforehand and was ready to study them carefully. Adrian accidentally hung up on a missed call from Evelyn. What else could she want? Adrian hesitated for a moment, but still didn't call her back. This would have been impossible before. Adrian would have called her back immediately, explaining why Adrian missed her call. But now, Adrian has come to terms with it, and there are more important things. Let her think what she wants, it's fine. When it was almost time to arrive, Adrian didn't expect Evelyn to call Adrian again. Adrian, why didn't you answer my call? Adrian missed it. What's up? It was just a coincidence that Adrian bumped into Caleb today. Adrian didn't intend to bring him with me. Adrian also brought a cake. Adrian originally wanted to eat it with you. Adrian really just wanted to see you off. Adrian was very emotional for a moment. Evelyn actually took the initiative to call Adrian twice, just to explain such trivial things. In the past, when Adrian questioned her, got angry at her, asked her for reasons and explanations, she would always remain silent. She would only stare coldly at Adrian, then drop a "you're annoying." And it's okay when Caleb already. She seemed like she wanted to say something, but Adrian quickly cut her off. Adrian is getting off the car. Adrian will talk to you later. After hanging up, it vaguely occurred to Adrian that this was probably the first time in a long time that Adrian had hung up on her first. After going back, Adrian worked during the day and streamed at night, living a very full life. Adrian didn't even notice when she came back. It wasn't until after when Adrian finished his stream and saw the living room light on that Adrian realized she was sitting on the sofa. Her suitcase was still next to her, and she looked up. Don't you remember the day Adrian was coming back? Adrian rubbed his nose. Sorry, Adrian has been a bit busy lately. Adrian understood her discomfort. Her job often required business trips, so Adrian used to especially cherish the time Adrian spent with her. Adrian would count down the time, waiting for her to come back. Adrian would also buy flowers, fresh fruit, and snacks beforehand, and put them in the living room, afraid she would be hungry. Now the living room table was completely empty. Adrian had really forgotten everything. But even if Adrian remembered, Adrian wouldn't bother making any preparations. It was too cheesy. She looked at Adrian, hesitant, and then said, "You're doing game streaming?" "Yeah." Adrian poured himself a glass of water. She had always disliked Adrian playing games, and Adrian was prepared to be lectured. But she said, "That's good. If you like it, you can try it." Adrian glanced at her in surprise, and then Adrian suddenly noticed that the necklace she was wearing was the one Adrian had given her. She lowered her eyes and said softly. Adrian returned the necklace Caleb gave Adrian. Adrian yawned. Streaming was very demanding, and Adrian was already very tired. "That necklace looked pretty good on you. Why did you give it back?" She stared at Adrian again, her expression complicated. "You really think so?" Adrian was confused. "To be fair, that one does suit you better than the one you're wearing now." Evelyn looked at Adrian without saying anything. Her eyes seemed to be a little red. Maybe Adrian was too tired, and his vision was blurry. Adrian yawned again. "Adrian is going to sleep first. Kirsten asked us to go camping tomorrow. Want to go together?" Kirsten was the owner of a hiking club. She, Evelyn, and Caleb all met through hiking. She had even tried to set Evelyn and Caleb up. They had a hiking group and would often go on short or long hikes together. The mountain paths were difficult, and sometimes Caleb would hold Evelyn's hand, and Evelyn would clean his wounds after he fell. Watching it made Adrian's veins throb. Adrian had talked to Evelyn and argued with her about it, but she said frankly that everyone was like that. It was nothing. Fine. Adrian was narrow-minded. Adrian was a chauvinist. After going once or twice, Adrian stopped participating in their activities so Adrian wouldn't get upset. Forget it. Besides, Adrian wasn't interested in camping or anything like that. Come on. She just opened a new campsite. She's asking us to come and try it out. As if afraid Adrian would refuse, she added, "It'll be quick, just an afternoon. It won't interfere with your streaming." Adrian yawned for the third time and didn't continue to insist. Okay. The next day, they walked into the campsite, and Caleb very naturally took Evelyn's bag. Evelyn also acted very relaxed, as if she was used to it. Caleb put his arm around her shoulder and led her towards the tent. "Evelyn, why are you so late?" "Caleb saved you a spot right next to the fire. Caleb knows you get cold." They used to be like this. They acted like no one else was around, chatting and laughing, one sentence after another. It made Adrian seem like an outsider. They often walked side by side in front, while Adrian followed silently behind. Adrian had once tried to change things, actively trying to catch up, wanted to take back the initiative, but they were always talking about things related to the campsite or funny things that happened between them. There was no room for Adrian to interject. Adrian was always out of place. Now this scene was playing out again in front of Adrian's eyes, but Adrian was used to it, completely unfazed. Whatever, let them do what they want. Adrian randomly found a folding chair and sat down. The lighting was very good here. Adrian's mood also seemed to be brought out and warmed up by the sun. Adrian opened his eyes, surprised to find that Evelyn had actually walked over to Adrian. Caleb next to her was also stunned. His hand was still raised, but he quietly lowered it. "Let's go together." She stood in front of Adrian, saying it very calmly. Adrian looked at her, then looked at Caleb, and shook his head. "No need, you guys go." "Adrian will go." She paused, lowered her voice like she was holding back. "Adrian, are you coming or not?" "No, Adrian." Before Adrian could finish speaking, she turned around and walked away with big strides. Passing Caleb, she threw a sentence without turning her head. "Let's go. Ignore him." But Caleb didn't move. He slung Evelyn's bag over his shoulder, raised his eyebrows at Adrian provocatively, and then followed her. Adrian shook his head with a smile and continued to close his eyes, enjoying the rare leisure. After a while, Kirsten called everyone over for barbecue. Adrian strolled over slowly and found that everyone had deliberately left a seat for Adrian next to Evelyn. She had a tense face and didn't look at Adrian even after Adrian sat down. Her gaze didn't move. She held a cup of coffee, occasionally rotating it. "Evelyn, why do you look so pale?" Caleb sat on her other side, took off the jacket he was wearing, and spread it over Evelyn's legs. "Aren't you on your period? You're wearing so little. Be careful not to catch a cold." Evelyn lowered her eyes and didn't say a word. Kirsten bent over, handing out drinks to everyone while glancing at Adrian. All eyes in the area were on Adrian for a moment. Really? Did they think Adrian would react like before, put on a long face on the spot, and argue with Caleb? Adrian laughed and nodded lightly. "So sweet. Adrian is so moved. Why don't you two announce it right now?" The air was momentarily silent. Evelyn seemed to freeze instantly. She suddenly looked up at Adrian, her eyelashes trembling slightly. Caleb was also stunned, then shook his head and smiled. "Don't misunderstand. It was just a casual thing." He naturally adjusted the jacket on Evelyn's legs. "Before, when we did that heavy backpacking trip together, we walked the T-Horse Road, and Evelyn's leg cramped. Caleb was the one who massaged it for her too. He often did this, seemingly understanding and trying to ease the atmosphere. In reality, he was adding fuel to the fire, ruthlessly stepping on Adrian's nerves. It was clearly his ambiguous actions, yet he had to proclaim his own uprightness. And every time he made Adrian lose his composure and curse him in public while he remained calm and collected. However, now his words wouldn't stir up the slightest bit of anger in Adrian. Caleb smiled gently. "We're all old acquaintances. Adrian, you definitely wouldn't be so petty about such a small thing, right?" Evelyn frowned slightly. "It's not. It's okay." She paused, turning her head towards Adrian in disbelief. Adrian smiled at her, then took the drink and poured it. "Of course, Adrian is not petty. Actually, Adrian should thank you. Thank you for taking such good care of my girlfriend." Adrian is ashamed of his own inadequacy. Adrian raised his glass to Caleb. "Come on, let's drink to you." Caleb's smile froze. He was uncharacteristically embarrassed, unsure whether to drink or not. Evelyn's eyes suddenly turned red. She abruptly stood up. "Adrian is going to buy something." As soon as she took a step, Caleb instinctively picked up the fallen jacket and chased after her. "Do you want to put this on?" "No need." Evelyn waved her hand fiercely, knocking the jacket to the ground, and walked straight out of the tent area. Being rejected so mercilessly in public made Caleb's face instantly turn ugly. His face went from pale to red. He picked up the jacket silently and sat back in his seat. Everyone looked at each other. Perhaps they had expected such a scene, but they didn't expect that it would be Caleb who was embarrassed this time. Kirsten coughed lightly and took the initiative to distribute the skewers. "Everyone try them. They're all going to get cold." Adrian, who was usually the last to respond, was now the first to take a skewer. Adrian took a bite. It was really delicious. After that camping trip, they started another round of Cold War, but to be precise, It was Evelyn's one-sided cold war against Adrian. Recently, when she came home at night, she never stayed in the living room but went straight to the second bedroom and slammed the door shut. Occasionally, if they bumped into each other, she would also walk away with a cold face. Adrian understood her. She was actually a very proud person. She was waiting for Adrian to go to her, to admit Adrian was wrong and give her a way out. Before, Adrian would try to guess her thoughts, estimate when she had calmed down, and then try all sorts of ways to coax her, buying flowers and cakes. But now Adrian had no such desire. Adrian felt like this was not a bad thing. Adrian's life hadn't been affected at all. Adrian even felt a bit relaxed and could concentrate on doing his own things. The popularity of Adrian's live stream had stabilized in the range of a few thousand people, and Adrian had his own fan base. It's already past o'clock. Who's looking for you so late? Adrian turned his head and saw her gaze on Adrian's constantly vibrating phone fan group. Adrian answered vaguely, with toothpaste foam in his mouth. In the past, she didn't care who Adrian interacted with and never looked at Adrian's phone to check up on him. Today, she was acting out of character and directly picked up Adrian's phone. Momo, bro, your voice is not so good today. Remember to rest. Momo, get some rest soon, brother Adrian. Evelyn held the screen up to Adrian, asking word by word, "Who is this Momo?" Adrian glanced at the screen, finished rinsing his mouth, and wiped the foam clean, replying, "Just a normal fan." "A fan calls you brother? What's wrong?" Adrian looked at her strangely. "They all call Adrian that." Evelyn wanted to speak just as Adrian took his phone, ready to go back to his room to sleep. She suddenly followed Adrian in. Looking at Adrian's confused expression, she spoke with some difficulty. "Adrian, can you leave that group? Adrian doesn't like it when people call you that." Adrian was silent. She had always been proud and had never been so humble in front of Adrian. But Adrian understood her expression, understood her restraint. Once upon a time, Adrian was the same, stomping his pride underfoot, practically begging her. "Evelyn, in the future, can you not interact with Caleb? Adrian doesn't like you being too close to him." Her answer back then was etched in Adrian's memory. Now Adrian looked her directly in the eyes and calmly said, "The first time we went hiking, every time when Caleb went to fetch water, he'd call you along. He called you many times, Evelyn. That was also the first time Adrian talked to you, hoping you would keep a distance from him. How did you answer Adrian?" Evelyn suddenly looked up at Adrian, her face growing paler inch by inch. Her lips trembled imperceptibly. Adrian knew she remembered. Back then, facing Adrian's plea, she had said disdainfully, "Adrian is very busy. It's rare for Adrian to relax. Adrian doesn't have time to cater to your emotions." Adrian was immediately provoked and retorted loudly, "Adrian is your boyfriend. Can you change a little bit for Adrian?" After a few rounds, the argument escalated, and finally she said, "Take a look at yourself. Do you even deserve it?" Adrian's mind went blank. Adrian almost couldn't believe that she had said those words. That was also the first time Adrian cried after they got together. Only when a knife is plunged into your own body do you know the pain. Adrian said calmly, "Your answer back then is my answer now. Adrian is very busy too right now." Adrian didn't finish Adrian's sentence, leaving it at that. Even so, Evelyn seemed to have received a great blow and took a step back, as if she was unsteady. Her face was filled with a fragility Adrian had never seen before. She suddenly laughed, a laugh that was worse than crying. "Are you taking revenge on Adrian, Adrian? If you think you can make Adrian give in like this, you're dreaming." Adrian looked at her for a while, feeling like Adrian didn't recognize her anymore. Was this person with her weary face and forced ferocity really the person Adrian had loved for so many years? "Adrian doesn't know what you're thinking, but Adrian didn't mean it that way." Adrian answered her calmly, "It's getting late. We have work tomorrow. Go to bed early." To Adrian's surprise, Evelyn was actually sitting at the dining table the next morning. Their work schedules were different. Adrian worked a standard to while she was project-based with flexible hours, often waking up close to noon, so they usually only saw each other after Adrian got back from work. Even more surprising to Adrian was that there were sandwiches and milk on the table. She lowered her head, her voice a bit quiet. "Eat breakfast." Adrian knew this was already a huge concession for her. She had to wake up early for Adrian and even prepare breakfast herself and then wait for Adrian. If it were in the past, this would definitely make Adrian overjoyed, enough to throw any unhappiness out of Adrian's mind. Unfortunately, things were different now. Adrian is sorry. Adrian doesn't have time. Adrian will go ahead. Evelyn looked up, somewhat at a loss. This is what Adrian specifically prepared for you. Adrian was rapidly changing his shoes. Thanks, you eat it yourself. She didn't know Adrian had long lost the habit of eating at home. When she and Adrian first lived together, they also had a sweet time. Adrian usually got up first in the morning, went downstairs to buy breakfast, and then called her to wake up. Sometimes when she stayed in bed, Adrian would kiss her, tease her, and deliberately smear the sandwich sauce on the tip of her nose. Adrian would also laugh at her for peeling the eggs messily and then hand her the eggs Adrian had peeled. Later, her business trips became more frequent, and gradually, it was just Adrian alone in the mornings. Adrian didn't know what it felt like for her to eat breakfast alone at home. Adrian had eaten at home for a week straight then and never ate breakfast at home again. Adrian closed the door, and through the ever-narrowing crack of the door, Adrian saw Evelyn's utterly dejected expression. Evelyn seemed to have changed. She started to contact Adrian proactively during work hours. Her messages would pop up from time to time. Sometimes it was funny videos, sometimes it was pictures she had taken, some even directly asked Adrian when Adrian was going back. This was truly unusual. Before, the intervals between their conversations were always very long. Often Adrian would ask her something, and she'd reply half a day later. Adrian scrolled upwards. The last time Adrian proactively sent her a message was the day before her birthday. It was already a month ago. When Adrian got home at night, the room was no longer dark. Instead, the lights were on, and a table was full of dishes. Adrian was a little embarrassed, holding the takeout Adrian had brought back from the company. Do you still like these dishes? As soon as Adrian sat down, she had already served the rice and handed Adrian the chopsticks. Yeah. The words of refusal ultimately remained unspoken in Adrian's throat, and Adrian lowered his head and quickly ate. Were you very busy today, Evelyn? Evelyn held her chopsticks, poking at the rice in her bowl a few times. So. Then why didn't you reply to Adrian's messages? Her voice grew softer and softer. Adrian sent you so many. Adrian felt a mixture of emotions. Once Adrian had awkwardly asked her the same thing. Evelyn, are you very busy? Are you that busy, so busy that you can't even reply to a message? But how did she answer Adrian back then? She said, you're just too idle. Adrian put down his chopsticks and calmly said, Adrian is full. Adrian is going to start his live stream. She didn't get Adrian's answer, and her head drooped even lower. She only said, okay. Evelyn never asked Adrian if Adrian was busy again, but she still persisted in sending Adrian messages, sharing the little things in her life. Adrian doesn't know if she's trying to make up for something or what she's trying to do. Adrian doesn't really care. Adrian didn't deliberately ignore her, and sometimes when Adrian saw a funny joke she sent, Adrian would reply with a haha. But most of the time, if Adrian didn't think there was anything to say, Adrian didn't reply. However, she seemed to get more and more courageous with each setback, and she was becoming better and better to Adrian. Even knowing Adrian was pressed for time and didn't eat breakfast at home, she still insisted on waking up early. Adrian told her several times that she didn't have to, but she said she did, that it allowed her to see Adrian one more time. She insisted on making breakfast in advance for Adrian to take away. Dinner was the same, never letting Adrian bring takeout back from the company again. When Adrian was live streaming, she would quietly bring Adrian sliced fruit. Sometimes she would even add throat-soothing lozenges or milk tea. This made Adrian very uncomfortable, but also made it so Adrian didn't know how to refuse. She also became very attentive to Adrian's phone. At first, when she picked up Adrian's phone, she was still somewhat embarrassed and would find some excuses. 2 days later, she was picking it up very naturally, without any pretense, thoroughly flipping through every message on Adrian's phone. Can you not look at Adrian's phone? Adrian said with a headache. The official contacts Adrian, and Adrian needs to reply in a timely manner. If you look at it often, it will make Adrian miss some information. Evelyn was stunned, as if burned, and quickly handed the phone back to Adrian. She clenched her fingers, revealing an embarrassed expression, and whispered, Adrian is sorry. Adrian knows she's a proud person. She'd never deign to do something like checking up on someone. She once told Adrian that she looked down on people who were overly guarded about their significant others. She sneered. Men can't be kept by guarding them. Now she had become the person she despised most. She regarded every woman who approached Adrian with the highest vigilance, scrutinizing each of Adrian's messages word by word. She must be extremely insecure and also extremely disappointed in herself. Adrian opened his mouth, but had nothing to say, only silence. Sometimes Adrian's mind would wander. Adrian would involuntarily think about the past with Evelyn. Evelyn and Adrian were university classmates. They were in the same drama club. At a party after a curtain call, amidst the crowd's cheers, Adrian kissed her. She has always been proud and radiant. Even without the spotlight on her, she was always Adrian's leading lady. On rainy days, when they shared an umbrella, Adrian would quietly lean it towards her side. After she noticed that Adrian's shoulder was half wet, she was quiet for a while, and then she hugged Adrian tightly. That was the first time she said, "Adrian loves you." Just after graduation, Adrian stated with a grand reason that they could live together to save on rent costs. She kept smiling so much that Adrian was embarrassed. Just when Adrian was scratching his head, ready to change his words, she said with sparkling eyes, "Okay." Over the years, the good times they shared were real. The love was also real, but so was the hurt. Adrian was willing to help her soar, but as she flew, she wavered. They had been dating since college, and counting that, that's also 6 years of time. Caleb and her had only been reunited for 2 years. Caleb was Evelyn's senior from high school. Adrian heard that Evelyn had a crush on him, but due to some circumstances, they never got together. Since their reunion, Caleb had also had girlfriends, which further became an excuse for their open and above-board relationship. Adrian had also once wondered, was Adrian mistaken? She was Adrian's female lead, but Adrian wasn't necessarily her male lead. Caleb, who was equally matched with her in career, appearance, and character, had appeared a long time ago. Perhaps they were the right ones, destined to meet at the peak, while Adrian was just a piece of scenery for Evelyn at the foot of the mountain. Perhaps it was unwillingness, or perhaps it was deep love. Before, Adrian would rather bend his spine than choose to let go. But there aren't so many forgives in this world. This unwillingness, anger, and pain hadn't passed. Adrian had simply slowly accepted it. Fortunately, as Adrian accepted it, it really passed. Adrian wanted to find an opportunity to talk with Evelyn. Before, Adrian had been subservient to her, and now she had become cautious around Adrian. This relationship had twisted Adrian before, and now was twisting her. Perhaps it should have ended a long time ago. Evelyn must have noticed it. Every time Adrian just started a conversation, she would quickly change the topic or make an excuse to leave, leaving Adrian a bit helpless. That night there was a live stream online event. Unexpectedly, the person Adrian connected with was his apprentice from many years ago, now a big-time streamer, Tara. On the other end of the screen, Tara laughed teasingly. "Master, after so many years, do you have a wife yet?" Instantly, the comments on the screen became dense. Actually, Adrian intended to just joke around and brush off this kind of personal question. Just as Adrian was about to speak, out of the corner of his eye, Adrian noticed Evelyn put the cut kiwi fruit aside. She lingered for a moment, not immediately walking away like she usually did. She was also waiting for Adrian's answer. Maybe she was hoping that Adrian would, like before, boastfully introduce her to everyone. Whenever Adrian joined a new circle, "Meet my girlfriend, Evelyn." But this time, Adrian was silent. Amidst her silent anticipation and prodding, Adrian finally spoke softly. "Adrian has had one." Tara's question was actually, "Do you have a girlfriend?" Adrian's answer was, "Adrian has had one." Clang. The ceramic bowl holding the kiwi fruit was knocked over onto the table. "Adrian is sorry." Evelyn lowered her head, frantically putting the scattered fruit pieces back into the bowl, her fingers trembling. "Oh, did Tara hear a girl's voice?" He joked. "Master, you wouldn't be married and intentionally hiding it, would you?" Adrian also laughed. "Ha, almost." Adrian pulled open a drawer, took out a jewelry box with a ring, and opened it. Inside was a simple white diamond ring. When Adrian just graduated, Adrian used half a year's salary to buy a ring, but Adrian never had the chance to give it. Adrian said to Tara, as if Adrian were telling someone else's story, but first love naturally didn't end up together. "This ring, Adrian will just keep it as a memento for myself. Adrian lowered his eyes and took a sip of water. Out of the corner of his eye, Adrian saw that Evelyn's face was pale, her hands tightly gripping the ceramic bowl, her knuckles white. It was good to take this opportunity to say it. Finally saying it out loud, Adrian felt much lighter. The years of love also had a conclusion. Tara's expression didn't change, and he naturally picked up the conversation. Oh, so there's a story behind it. Come on, let's team up and play a couple of rounds. The smile on Adrian's lips didn't change. Yeah, it's time to start over. In the reflection of the screen, Adrian saw a figure stagger out. The footsteps were uneven and sounded like she had bumped into a cabinet. She looked completely lost. Adrian put on his headphones, and with the entrance music, Adrian focused on the operation of the mouse, never once looking back. Adrian's phone vibrated with a buzz. Evelyn's name lit up on the screen, but the voice that came through was Kirsten's curses. Adrian, come pick up Evelyn quickly. Did you two have a fight? Evelyn drank a lot and has thrown up twice already. She won't listen to anyone. Adrian turned his head to glance at the dark and silent living room and frowned, not caring that it wasn't Adrian's usual stream ending time yet. Adrian said goodbye to Tara, picked up his coat, and walked out the door. A trace of regret welled up in Adrian's heart. Perhaps Adrian should have chosen a gentler way. This breakup might be too cold. Adrian had imagined Evelyn's face flushed from drunkenness. Adrian had also imagined she might be a mess with tears all over her face. But Adrian didn't expect that in the dim light of the bar, on the booth sofa, she would be nestled in Caleb's arms. Kirsten, who had let Adrian in, abruptly stopped in her tracks, embarrassed, and didn't dare look at Adrian's eyes. Adrian's gaze fell on her moist lips and then swept over her slightly red cheeks hidden in her hair. She was like a wet white bird, curled up in a ball. Only Adrian used to be the one who sheltered her from the rain. But now Adrian had become her rain. Caleb had his arm around her, his face turned sideways, his gaze through his gold-rimmed glasses gentle. This scene, if it were before, would probably have been enough to drive Adrian crazy. Perhaps Adrian's eyes would have been red, unable to stop himself from grabbing a bottle and smashing it at Caleb. But now Adrian only feels relieved. Adrian even thinks that if they really ended up together, it wouldn't be so bad. The last trace of reluctance and attachment in Adrian's heart has also vanished into thin air. At this moment, Evelyn's vacant, teary eyes landed on Adrian, instantly becoming focused. Across a distance of 5 or 6 meters, in the soft music, their eyes met. Adrian smiled at her, nodded, and turned to leave. No, wait. Adrian! Adrian! Behind Adrian came the sounds of chairs bumping and exclamations. Adrian was unmoved, walking out without looking back. The next moment, Adrian's wrist was seized tightly, and when Adrian turned back, it was Caleb. His lips were pressed into a thin line, as if suppressing anger. You wait for a moment. Didn't you see Evelyn fall? Adrian pulled his hand out calmly, saying, Then Adrian will trouble you to take care of her. What are you pretending for? She's been calling your name. She's so sad because of you. Yet you don't even want to wait for her. What kind of boyfriend are you? Well, Adrian is not one anymore. Without being provoked into any anger, Adrian calmly patted his shoulder. When Adrian said Adrian is leaving her to you, Adrian meant it literally. How things go for you two in the future has nothing to do with Adrian. If Adrian had still felt a bit of annoyance and resentment during the camping trip, at this moment, Adrian truly had no grudges. Caleb let go of Adrian's hand in disbelief. You. In that instant, Evelyn, leaning on the sofa, stood in front of Adrian. Adrian doesn't know how much she heard. Her shoulders were trembling slightly. She had a scrape on her elbow, and up close Adrian could see her eyes were clearly red and swollen, as if she had been crying for a long time. She barely stood straight, tidied her hair, and with difficulty lifted the corners of her mouth. Adrian, you're here to take Adrian home? Adrian remembers this sentence very clearly. A long time ago, when she had just worked for half a year, once she had to attend a work function and got so drunk she couldn't even stand up straight. Adrian went to pick her up, both shocked and angry. She was sitting on the steps in front of the restaurant, head lowered. Hearing Adrian's footsteps, she looked up and said to Adrian, Adrian, you're here to take Adrian home. It was one of her few soft and vulnerable moments. At the time, Adrian felt so much tenderness and pity. Adrian gently hugged her and draped his jacket over her. But now there was none of that heart-wrenching tenderness, only indifference. Adrian looked at her seriously. Evelyn, we broke up. She ignored Adrian, took another step closer, and hugged Adrian's arm. Adrian wants to eat ice jelly. Will you take Adrian to eat some? Adrian was silent. Ding ding. She shook Adrian's arm, acting spoiled. Give Adrian a smile. Why are you being so fierce to Adrian? At this moment, she was very much like that girl from the drama club, bright and pure. But Adrian was no longer the Adrian he was back then. Adrian slowly pulled his arm away, bent down, and met her eyes. Evelyn, you heard it too. Adrian really did want to marry you, but feelings change. Now that it has come to this, can we say goodbye properly? Evelyn stared blankly at Adrian, tears welling up in her eyes. No, Adrian can't. She shook her head, wiped the corner of her eye, and repeated it louder. Adrian can't. Evelyn had always been proud, rarely showing such direct emotions and childishness. Kirsten on the side looked distressed, as if wanting to say something to persuade her, but in the end she couldn't open her mouth. Sorry. This time, regardless of whether you agree or not, we are ending it here, Adrian said decisively. Adrian took one last look at her, ignored her repeated calls of Adrian, and strode out of the bar. Since it had come to this, it was no longer appropriate to live together. That night, when Adrian got back, Adrian began packing his things. The next morning, Adrian dragged his suitcase and left the home they had shared for 2 years. Adrian cleaned the house one last time, hesitated for a moment, but didn't leave any note. Since they were going to break up, it was better to make a clean break. Finding a new place wouldn't be quick, so Adrian checked into a hotel first. Unexpectedly, Evelyn knocked on Adrian's hotel room door that very night. How did you find Adrian here? Evelyn smiled self-deprecatingly. Adrian has your location on Adrian's phone. It's a function on a dating app we registered on a long time ago. Adrian had completely forgotten about that. You won't invite Adrian in for a sit-down? Evelyn brushed the hair from her ear, her gaze lowered slightly, falling on the doorknob. Adrian knows her well. Although she masked it well so that ordinary people might not see anything amiss, Adrian could see through her embarrassment at a glance. She was feeling awkward. In the middle of the night, she knocked on Adrian's door, taking the initiative to ask Adrian if she could come in and sit for a while. Everyone was an adult. The implication was self-evident. Adrian said softly. Adrian thought Adrian made it clear yesterday. We're all ready. Adrian knows. Evelyn lowered her eyes in a bit of panic, then after a moment, raised her gaze to look at Adrian, as if summoning her courage. Can you give Adrian another chance? She grabbed Adrian's hand, placed it on her shoulder, then slowly slid it down. Just give Adrian another chance, please. Her hand was trembling, her expression a mix of pain and determination. Adrian understood her struggle. The pride in her bones was telling her to turn and leave. She was simultaneously castigating herself for sinking to the level of using her body to try and salvage a man, while at the same time feeling utterly desperate with no other recourse. Adrian grasped her hand in return, stopping her movements. Evelyn, you can't do this to yourself. Adrian gave her a light hug. Tonight, Adrian will pretend you were never here. Her body instantly stiffened. Don't do something you'll regret. You're Evelyn. Don't become someone you look down on either. Her eyes reddened in an instant, tears trickling down her face one by one. She suddenly hugged Adrian tightly. Adrian is sorry, Adrian. Adrian is sorry, she choked out. Adrian knows it's Adrian's fault. It's because Adrian was too cold to you, because Adrian didn't know how to cherish you. It's Adrian's fault for not having boundaries with Caleb. It's because Adrian didn't handle things well. Adrian truly knows Adrian was wrong. Please. Adrian slowly but firmly pushed her away, looking steadily into her reddened eyes and smiled. The Evelyn Adrian knows wouldn't beg for love. Adrian pulled out a tissue and handed it to her. You just need some time, Evelyn. Adrian actually understands how you feel right now, because Adrian has been just as desperate before. Adrian smiled again. But tomorrow morning, you'll probably regret everything and want to stab you from last night. Even if there is no love, you still need to maintain your dignity and leave us with some respect and memories. So tonight, Adrian hasn't seen Evelyn. The Evelyn Adrian remembers will always be that radiant girl from the drama club. She used to be Adrian's leading lady, and we shared a long, companionable time. It's just that my leading lady is now going to start her next story, and Adrian also has his own path to walk. It's time for us to part ways. Evelyn burst into tears. Adrian had never seen her cry so hard before. They stood face to face, close enough to embrace, but something had already irrevocably changed. After a long while, she slowly raised her eyes to look at Adrian and gave a very faint smile. Thank you, Adrian. In the future, you shouldn't be so gentle with girls. Her smile deepened a bit as tears welled up in the corners of her eyes, especially when breaking up. Adrian is afraid she'll never forget you for the rest of her life. Adrian was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and laughed. This time, Adrian watched her leave. She was like a fading youthful dream, and a brand new future was slowly unfolding before Adrian.